Happy Wednesday, everybody. Dr. Annie here. Dr. Rachel is sadly in Mexico. Not sadly for her, sadly for me. So she is soaking up all the sun and vitamin D and just hopefully going to bring back some warmer weather with her when she comes back on Friday. So I'm here today with Miss Mandi. She is from Great Lakes Doulas, and so we're going to talk about Body Ready Method. She is a Body Ready Method Pro. So she incorporates a lot of that into her doula work and stuff, and working with moms and getting them ready for their pregnancy or for their labors and everything like that. So she's going to talk more about that, and then we're also going to give some tips on spinning babies too.
Yeah,
because we both love spinning babies and getting moms ready for their best labors. So, all right. So do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about. So you started with Great Lakes. When did you start with them, and how did that transition come in?
Yeah.
What made you want to be a doula? Tell me the whole story.
The whole story.
Yeah. Just give it all to me.
Well, how long do you have?
We gotta. I mean, as long as people want to watch.
Yeah. So my story begins. You know, where does anyone's story begin, right? But to keep it succinct, my story started with a hard first labor.
Okay.
So many other moms, right? My baby was in a position that's called posterior direct OP, occiput, back of the head, posterior towards the back. So my baby was grinding right up against my sacrum.
Yeah.
For most of my labor, it was really awful.
A lot of moms will say like back labor, stuff like that, just super uncomfortable.
Super uncomfortable.
Usually long labors too.
Yes,
so.
very long early labor, and I thought I was gonna die. You know, like out of exhaustion.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I had all the plans. I had a friend that volunteered to be my doula. I had taken lots of classes, and my husband was ready to support me with the Bradley method stuff. And then we were signed up to work with 3 different midwives at a in-hospital birth center in St. Louis.
Cool.
So I felt like, okay, we have everything lined up and ready to go. Like all we need is for this baby to just move on through, and everything's gonna be great. And the baby just did not decide to move on through. So I ended up being transferred into the actual L&D in the hospital for maternal exhaustion. Got signed up for epidural. By the way, it was the greatest thing ever. It was like 100%. We needed that one.
Okay.
And no shame, no guilt, nothing.
No,
on that one.
no, never. Never any shame or guilt. Yeah.
Never. And then I spent like another 10 plus hours on epidural, and then another 4 plus hours of pushing before she arrived. And I had no idea the entire time that she was posterior and that there was any kind of issue with her movement through the pelvis. So,
or like that positioning too. Yeah.
Yeah, I had absolutely no idea that it was even something to be considered. And the only time that I had any kind of tip off was like right when she was about to be born. The midwives that were attending me, there was 2 at the time sitting. They were whispering back and forth about like, what if it's a big baby, and you know what kind of things would they need to do to keep me safe and whatever. And they said, I think this baby might be sunny side up, and they kind of giggled and what a stinker, that kind of stuff. But I was so in the moment that I just didn't understand even then, like what does that even mean? Why would a baby
not
come
really
sunny
in
side up?
a position to be like, what does that mean? But
Yeah, I had no idea. Like I was just like, cool.
Like get her the other way.
Yeah. And then she came sunny side up, and it was like, thank God that's over. And you know, that whole story just kind of like sat in the back of my head for a while. That hard labor moved into a really hard postpartum recovery. I had postpartum anxiety that was again like not noticed by others, not like pointed out to me. So it was just kind of a silent suffering. And it was in that phase that I quit my job at the time and decided that I needed to do something else to like earn some money for my family, and signed up to work at a cloth diaper store in St. Louis with Bum Genius diapers. Their boutique at the time was called Cotton Babies.
Cool.
So I got to bring my baby to work with me for her entire first year.
Awesome.
Teach moms about cloth diapers and about a lot of products around natural parenting, and also be raised up as a mother amongst other mothers in that storefront, which was the absolute like biggest blessing I could have ever hoped for. In the midst of that, like after my daughter turned 1, she's not invited to come to work with you anymore, rightly so. She doesn't she doesn't want to come
She's
either.
gonna be running around.
Yeah. And so I had to make a decision, like, do I want to stay in the store or do I want to move on and do something else? And it turned out that my husband was about to graduate from school at the time. We were wanting to move to Grand Rapids, and so I said, okay, we're going to be done with this season, but I have to stay in this environment, loving women, supporting them, walking through life with them in that kind of a capacity. Because we saw so many people come into the store just like, I want to do this parenting thing right, but like, I don't know even where to start, you know, and I would just,
it's like you need to toe into that like community.
Yeah,
right?
oh yeah, and I was like, take my hand, here we go. Right?
Yeah,
like, it was so great.
It.
Yeah, and Jen Lavitt, the owner of Cotton Babies, owner of Bum Genius, she was a doula herself.
Cool.
And so it was just like, because I had one, I had hard labor, like I had this love of loving women in the midst of all of that. I was like, I think that's what I want to do. I told my husband, he was like, okay, like sure, you know, like you sure, you know. And at first I wanted to be a postpartum doula because of the store.
Yeah.
And then I thought, you know, honestly, the person I am, the heart that I have it's for the whole story.
Yeah.
And so because I just figured it would be a good idea, I took the birth doula training through Dawn International. It just so happened to be first in the lineup between birth and then postpartum training.
Yeah.
And it was in that birth doula training that I learned all about baby positioning. Not all about it, but that it existed and that it, you know, a baby can be lined up correctly or not correctly, more than just something that's breech and head down, right? Or even more than anterior, posterior. There's so many ways a baby can be sitting in the uterus, so many ways a baby can move through the bony pelvis.
Yeah, even how their head can be like engaged with the cervix and stuff like that, or not even engaged.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot of factors.
And how it like correlates to labor contraction patterns and pain patterns that you have. And the biggest thing that was like just this fire for me was that it's not just that it exists, but that doulas specifically can learn about it and change the story.
So cool.
And so that is exactly like where everything for me took off. It was like I took this birth doula training not because I loved birth, but I walked out of that doula training like having this new like
purpose.
Yes.
Yeah, and passion.
Yeah.
That's so
and
cool.
I was like, this is who I am for the rest of my life.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're like, yep, this is where like my path has led me. So.
Right. And I still took a postpartum doula training. I'm still a postpartum doula. I love serving moms in their homes, helping with nursing and the laundry and all that. But yeah, it's the spinning baby stuff. It's the body positioning stuff. That's really like where I glow a little bit. Yeah. Okay,
so tell us a little bit about, you were telling me before we started talking on live about the body ready method and stuff like that. So you want to?
Yeah. So it's actually a little easier for me to start with spinning babies.
Oh,
because
let's
that's
do
kind
that.
of how my story grows.
Cool. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So of course, like in the training, the birth doula training, I learned that it's a thing, but that's about as far as it goes. And so my trainer was like, if you want to know more about this, you really need to look into a spinning babies training for birth professionals. So of course, I signed right up for that.
Yep.
I took their 2-day workshop and learned from a girl named Kelly all about spinning babies and their philosophy for birth. So it's a very physiological approach. You're looking at the baby moving through the bony pelvis and really focusing on the station is really, if I could like boil it down.
Yeah.
So as a reminder to the mommies that are watching, when you're in labor and you're moving through progression of labor and you have a cervical exam, they check for 3 things. One of those things is dilation, the other is effacement, and that's a lot of what we focus on. But the third thing, and honestly not a lot of providers even say it out loud, is station. And that is a number that is correlated to how low the baby is moving through the pelvis.
Okay.
So mid pelvis is 0 station, and then it goes -1, -2, -3, -4, right, and so on. And then +1, +2, +3, +4 as they come out of the pelvis.
Okay.
So spinning babies is like, hey,
and that's like where their head is like crowning that kind of. Okay.
Yes, like where in
we're in the
proximity
pelvis
to the
there.
pelvis
Yes.
is.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. And I mean, this is going a little bit beyond, but like the 0 station is correlated with the ischial spines on the inside.
Okay.
And then above that and below that. So cool. Yeah, that's the true mid pelvis.
Do you want a picture? I can pull this diagram off the wall if you want to kind of give.
Sure.
Just so the people at home can see what we're.
Yeah.
I know what ischial spines are.
Yeah, so ischial spines would be these two little bony knobs right in here.
Yep.
And so as baby is coming down through, they're not going to meet these ischial spines until they're true mid-pelvis. So you may hear people say like, oh, you've dropped, or baby's engaged, or anything like that. It just means baby's essentially lower. It doesn't mean that they've met ischial spines at that point. It usually is.
Which is like about to go through the birth canal, right? So like, that's...
Yeah. So it's not until you meet like true active labor and beyond that baby is as low as the ischial spine. So a lot of times, if baby is staying high, like there's maybe an issue in getting into the pelvis. Sometimes if you're pushing for like 4 hours like me, there's a problem getting baby out of the pelvis. And so Spinning Baby says like, hey, we're not just looking at the pressure on the cervix here. Like we need to look at the whole body. We need to look at the mother and her bones and the baby as it passes through this chamber here. So they've identified, inlet, mid-pelvis, outlet, and the station that you're assigned at your cervical exam where baby is kind of like gives an idea of how you can work with your bony pelvis in your labor to help labor progress.
Yes.
So that's kind of the quickest way I can explain.
Yeah, that's great.
Without leading a 2-day workshop.
Great synopsis.
Yeah. So I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna change the world. Like I'm gonna help all these mommies not have stalls and not have issues with positioning. And I did. It was so much fun to be able to like work with even a very close friend. She had a posterior baby, and I was like, I knew exactly what to do. Yeah. And then we worked at home for like half an hour. Her baby moved out of posterior into left side.
That's awesome.
And she went on to go straight to the hospital, showed up as a 7, and delivered her baby like 2 hours later.
That's great.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And she was like, it was all belly and no back, and it was amazing. I didn't think it was possible for me. And so really cool stories. But honestly, the body ready method is the next training I took, and the motivation behind that one actually started when I was changing these stories. We were having beautiful labors. And then right at the last minute, I was watching mom's tear, like really bad.
Okay.
And I got so righteously angry. Like, we
like
just had this
done
great
all
story.
The
It's like, I did my part, like why and now she's going home like so wrecked and so broken, and she's gonna have such a difficult postpartum. And it's like the worst thing to meet your baby like with a 3rd degree tear, you know? And so I was just starting to think, okay, how do I become a better like support person in that moment? It's like the tear happens inside of 1 second, right? Like what is going on in that time that can change that, right? And what a lot of women are told in the hospital is like, everyone tears, so just push and then we'll fix you. And like that's not okay.
No,
that's not okay. So I started looking, I started Googling like how to help, tearing in labor, and I learned then, it's a confession, that we all have something called a pelvic floor. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. Go back and watch our video with Maureen.
Yes, we're going to tell you all about your pelvic floor.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, so this is something we can take care of. It's something that can be exercised. It's something that can be stretched. And it's not something that's supposed to be tight. And it's not something that's supposed to be weak. It's supposed to be supple. And anyway, so that's really where I started looking into this training called Body Ready Method. It's a training by a gal named Lindsay McCoy, who's a exercise psychologist or physiologist, and she's been working so hard in changing the birth paradigm in the world and being able to say like, okay, it's more than baby pressing on the cervix. It's also more than baby moving through the bony pelvis. It's the baby moving through the mother. And so now we're looking at not just baby through bones, it's baby through all the soft tissue. That's all fished in there, right? So like back at that diagram, like you can see things like, let's
I don't even have a pelvic floor on this.
So like things like the psoas, like this is a huge guide wire into the pelvis, right? And the piriformis is gonna be pulling the space that's available between the femur and the pelvis. And we have the sacroiliac, is that right here? Sacrotuberous?
Sacrotuberous and sacrospinous.
So like, I mean, these are just like a couple here, but like,
and this is all like
the entire pelvic floor.
This is the back here. Your pelvic floor is here.
Right.
And then your uterus is in front.
Sitting here. Right.
Yeah.
So like, if any one of these things, like if they were a rubber band and I just like took this piriformis right here and like pulled it, that's going to close certain areas of what's available in terms of space and open other areas that maybe weren't available for space. Or
which also stretches or strains like the pelvic floor too, and is going to change that anatomy.
Yeah, and so Lindsay's like, listen, if our piriformis is tight, it's not going to let a baby come through. If our psoas is so tight, it's not going to let a baby come through as easily.
Yeah, or get in the right position as easily too.
As easily. And so she started like giving exercises and things to help with managing the tissues in your pregnancy so that you can, her words, stack the cards in your favor to have a more optimal birth.
Yeah. And
so she's not as concerned about baby's positioning. That's more spinning baby stuff.
Yeah.
But her argument is if the soft tissues are balanced, then everything else is going to be balanced, and therefore the baby will be balanced and arrive in the right position on its own.
That's so close to like Webster technique too, that Rachel and I practice. We definitely focus on the position of the pelvis and more of like the bones there, but we do a lot of work with the soft tissues, with psoas, with piriformis, with the round ligaments and stuff too, to help balance, to get get everything in the right position. It is like, it's so focused on moms. Like, people think of Webster technique as like baby turning technique.
No,
we're not doing anything with the baby.
Exactly.
But give them the optimal amount of space.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what
they do their own thing.
Yeah. So that's kind of the idea of body ready method, is stacking the cards in your favor to have, honestly, like a less painful pregnancy. So you can be a strong pregnant person, move through that without feeling like your pubic symphysis is gonna like burst open, or like your sacral joints are gonna like cause the
like your sacrum's gonna fall off, or
what is the
like sciatic pain?
Thank you. Yeah, all the mommies that have sciatic pain, like that's it's kind of like, what is first, the chicken or the egg? Is it the sciatic nerve, or is it your sacrum being out of whack, right? So you can keep yourself from being in so much pain by like considering these things, which in turn will move into your labor as a more optimal labor experience, which in turn will go into postpartum so that you can have a better recovery postpartum.
Birth intervention, birth trauma, like all of those things.
Right.
This is like when new moms come in to meet with us, I'm like, so this is like step 1, step 2, step 3. Like, these are all the things that, like if we don't take care of the mom during pregnancy, then then we have higher chances of tougher labors, dystocia, tougher birth outcomes and stuff like that. More birth, more intervention, more recovery for mom. So it's
100%. Yeah, so it was about a year, it was like a year and a half ago or so, that, I had taken the Spinning Babies training right at the beginning of wanting to be a doula in 2016, is that 18? 2018. And I took the Body Ready method. Their very first class for birth professionals launched last year in 2021 in November. So it's like we finished in January of 2022. Okay. And it was right after I took that class that I was like, okay, everything that I learned in Spinning Babies is starting to be like it makes so much more sense. Right? Like, looking at it in different lenses, I realized like I felt so much more confident in using Spinning Babies techniques to work with my clients. And it just so happened that I had a client at the exact same time inform me that she found out her baby was laying transverse. And I was like, I know what to do. Like, I know what to do. Like, let's try it. And I was at her house for like 5 hours one day. And then she had a doctor's appointment, I think 2 days later, and she texted me saying that they confirmed with ultrasound that baby was head down. And I just felt like, oh my gosh, like how exciting to know that, the things that I learned actually did work. It's not me, it's them, right? It's not me at all.
But it's applying like the right techniques at the right times and stuff. And
and like just following through with doing those things too, because like, for instance, Spinning Baby says if you're gonna do a baby turning day, you need to go through the circuit that they give 7 times, which takes a long time. And so a lot of people only do it 3 times, or they only do 2 out of the 3 movements that they suggest, because the other ones don't make much sense. And so that's when the light came on again for me, and I was like, I think I want to offer this as a service to whoever, you know, like, finds out about me, finds out about this service, and also whoever needs it. So I started doing something called body balancing, and that's just using the techniques that were given from spinning babies, and then applying what I know from this body ready method technique and kind of just weaving them together. I work with mommies for about 2 hours, and I started noticing in the past year amazing stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so like mommies were having prodromal labor and like kind of not getting into labor at all, and they would go into labor that night. Or you know, babies that were malpositioned were now left side, and people that were having a lot of pain were getting a lot of relief from the things that we were doing. So
do you just do this for your doula clients, or do you do it for
anybody who
anyone?
Yeah.
How do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, it's just through our website.
We're gonna send a lot of people
GreatLakesDoulas.com.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Cool.
and I love working with chiropractors because I feel like if I'm working with soft tissues and you're doing a lot of like bony structure stuff, then like together we can really come at it from both angles and like hit it hard. And we have a lot of success working with chiropractors, even more, you know, and I can't say that I'm successful with everyone I work with because they have to have the desire to follow through at home. They have to have like the desire to come back if it didn't work the first time, and often it doesn't, you know, sometimes it takes up to 3 to 5 times to really work at the body ready method project. It's not an Instant Pot, it's a crock pot. Right? Like the body is not just gonna like fix itself in 2 hours and be like good to go, right? Like
it's true about chiropractic too. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can't just walk.
We have a line out the door.
Like,
exactly.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I have personally seen babies quite literally move out of reach in my own hands. Like as we move from one position to the next, the mom's like, I feel something different. I check, you know, I'm like, yeah, something's different. We move into the next thing. We come back up, and it's like baby's head down. Like I know it, and
so cool.
It's very fun to, and I can't like say for sure. From like just palpation, but like it's fun to hear the text the next day from an ultrasound appointment or something like that. That it's been working. So
cool.
Yeah, that's kind of where we are. So I mean, yeah, and then you know, there's all this body work stuff, but like I carry it with me to all the births I go to. So it's not, I don't hold back in the birth room. Like we're really thinking hard about like where baby is in the pelvis, what movements are going to be best to give to the mother in order to give the baby enough room. And then if there's a stall, I'm checking all the boxes. Like what do we have to think about?
I mean, that's the time to do it.
But hopefully, the goal is to not have to do any of that.
Exactly. Not do the later intervention.
Yeah, the best labors are the ones where it's like we show up and we have a baby, and it's not a big deal.
And we've been doing all the things to get there.
And I've definitely seen that happen too with mommies that are so tight coming to me in the beginning, and then we do all this hard work, and her birth is just like butter. You know, like knife coming through butter. It's so easy. And
butter births.
Butter births. That's what you want.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your story, and thanks so much for telling us all about that. We're definitely going to send a lot of moms your way.
I hope so.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for next week for another Wednesday Wellness. All right. Bye.